Yes. All right. So I did share a Google slide, but I only sent it this morning. So I don't know if you can pull it up, but I will be speaking from that. So
we don't have the slides here because if it came this morning, so if you want to share them from your computer, you can do that.
okay.
You should be able to do that. I hope that's available. So yes.
Let me give that a try.
Wonderful.
And if possible, hold.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. And slideshow.
Yes.
All right. How's that?
Wonderful.
Okay. Let me just make sure I can move it. Yes, I can. Awesome. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's still morning here where I'm at. The day's just now starting. Yate. My name is Nicole Horseherder, and I've got a little bit of a dry throat, so I have my tea here that I'm going to be sipping from every now and then. Yate also, and everybody's gathered here for the purpose of engaging in discussions about climate change and this transition that we're all in right now, especially the energy transition and the economic transition. My topic today is about just equitable transition where I'm from, which is the Four Corners region in the southwest corner of the United States, what's now called the United States. Our territory as Diné people spans Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. That's our traditional territory. And in the last 50 years, we've seen, of course, since coal mining began in our region, we've seen a steady decline in the last 15 years or so of coal. And this is global, this is everywhere. But for economic reasons, these utility plants and coal mines are closing, many of them without notice. There are some states which require that coal mines or coal plants give communities at least a couple of years notice. But in our Four Corners region, in our southwest region, where I'm from, many coal plants are not obligated to do that. And it's easy to say that we're going to replace all this coal with solar and it'll be a new system and it'll be a new this will solve the problem of coal plant closure and transitioning from that economy, but it's not that simple. So I'm a person that was raised in the coal era. Peabody Western Energy came to our homelands in the late 60s and created a of Interior was involved in this because the Department of Interior responsibility over Native nations and native lands. But even today, these pictures are recent. We are still a nation that relies on the lands that we live on to provide for us not only water, but for our farming needs, our ranching needs, and all other needs related to our society as Diné people. And so this is what the northern end of the Black Mesa Plateau where I live, this is what it looks like. It is the largest surface mining operation in the United States for the last 50 years. It is now closed, but just to give you a snapshot of what surface mining looks like here in the Southwest. The work that we do as an organization, Tó Nizhóní Ání, is focused on 4 coal plants. 1 coal mine in Arizona, 1 coal mine in New Mexico. And then beyond that, there are 3 additional coal plants that we also have to contend with. However, they are a little beyond the scope of the work that we do. However, the work that we do, the transition that we can guide.
I think either it's our Wi-Fi or yours, but we don't hear you right now. I think it's, no, she's also frozen. Ned, she's
Yeah, no, I think.
Okay. Ned, I think it was the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nicole, can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, we were gone for a second, but we're back.
Okay. So I apologize for that. And, you know, I'm in a place where the Wi-Fi should be great, but let me continue. And you just let me know if I cut out again, and I will try to start where I left off. So in the work that we do as Tó Nizhóní Ání, we are focused on 4 coal plants in Navajo. We are focused on 1 coal mine in Arizona and 1 coal mine in New Mexico. And you're probably wondering, how is 1 coal mine in both states providing for these coal plants? Well, they don't. Some of the coal plants that are near our homelands get their coal from Wyoming. Yes, they actually get trucked in from Wyoming. And that's how these coal plants exist here in our homelands. There are 3 additional coal plants that we are also contending with, not as directly as the ones that I mentioned here. And I will give you a snapshot here. So on the left side, as you're looking at the screen, is Navajo Generating Station, largest generating station south of the west of the Mississippi at 2,250 megawatts. And then we have San Juan Generating Station in New Mexico at about 1,800 megawatts at full capacity, and just recently closed. By the way, the Navajo Generating Station closed in 2019. San Juan Generating Station just closed recently, last year in 2022. So we are looking forward to the next 2 power plants closing, the Four Corners power plant, also on Navajo lands, and going to be closing here in the next 3 or 4 years. And then we have Cholla power plant located south of our homelands, and will be closing here in the next 2 years as well. So we are an indigenous nation with coal plants all around us, and so transition in this time is a very, very important topic. We are tackling transition in at least 3 different areas. I have categorized them as just transition, as water, and decommissioning and reclamation. However, I consider all of the work that we do transition work, and let me explain. We are dealing with just transition issues in terms of direct support from utility stakeholders. And what I mean by that is that these coal plants and these coal mines are owned by someone, usually companies and utilities. In our case, the coal mine that was situated on a reservation that shut down in 2019, was partially owned by the Bureau of Reclamation, which is basically the federal government. They have the largest share in this coal plant. But we are bringing back, in the name of transition, bringing back stakeholders.
I think we lost you for a second again.
Maybe I can.
Now you're back. That's good. It was just a half sentence. Sorry.
Okay. So we are talking about just transition. Oh, in terms of engaging utility commissions, state legislatures, and state governors, getting them to come back and repartner with the Navajo Nation for continued energy projects. And these energy projects need to be renewable energy projects. We are also focused on water. We are trying to convince the state of Arizona, not just to talk about the water crisis, but to also prioritize water and put it basically into action. We are dealing with, from the closed coal mine on Black Mesa, reclamation and recovery of the shallow and the deep aquifers. So as coal plants and coal mines exist in our territories, they continue to use a lot of both surface and groundwater. Much of it we can't afford to commit to industry any longer. So we have to bring stakeholders back to the table and talk about proper reclamation of water sources, but also more stringent regulation on how water is used in the future. Also in our area, we are talking about decommissioning and reclamation. This is a very important issue for us. In many communities who have hosted coal mines and coal plants, a lot of times reclamation and decommissioning is left at the hands of those regulatory bodies and agencies that oversee this. In our case, we are fighting hard to make sure that land reclamation is to a standard that is acceptable to us. What we see happening in our area is that relying on federal agencies, and in our case, because it's Indian lands, we rely on the Office of Surface Mining, which is a federal agency, to oversee the reclamation activities in our area. And we are finding from touring the sites and being engaged that much needs to be done by the federal agencies to improve reclamation, to bring back the plant diversity, the native species as much as possible, and reclaim shallow aquifers, which have been mined through, which will be very difficult to do, deep aquifers, which have been drawn down and depressurized, very hard to address, but these responsibilities fall on the federal agencies and the mining company that's involved. And so we are pushing hard to make sure that these issues are addressed. And if organizations such as ours do not step in and do not get themselves involved, and we leave it to federal agencies, we will see reclamation at a much lower standard than we expect it to be. Reclamation, proper reclamation of not just the land, but the water is the foundation for just transition. It is the foundation for future economic development. Here is a picture of the power plant and some more pictures of the coal mining.
You cut out for a second. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, all I have left are pictures, community pictures, which I felt like the audience there would be interested in. So I will flip through the community photographs now. Picture of the power plant. and the associated coal mine. They're 90 miles apart. Like I said, this is now closed. Some of the work we do involves direct action and involves engaging in our own indigenous government. We have traveled to make our issues known to companies who want to come in and try to continue coal mining. We engage our community people and mobilize them at every avenue, at every angle we can. It does not matter where, it does not have to be in some meeting space, it can be outside. We bring in our youth, they are the future, they have to be the ones to understand what's happening. This is not stuff that gets taught in American schools. We have to be able to teach our children what is really happening in their homelands. We engage our youth a lot to talk and learn how to message and talk about these issues to the public. And this is just an example of us using the local radio station to get information out. And because the internet is not great, I hope that the audience there got a good snapshot of the work that we do here in the Southwest and how very important it is to reach out to not only our tribal government, but to the state level leadership, as well as the nationwide leadership, to make sure that in the face of coal plant and coal mine closure, we have to do transition much different than we did before. In order to mitigate climate change into the future, we cannot create the same kind of business structures and partnerships that were in place before. We have to do this different. All the replacement power must be renewable energy. And we hear lots of talk about exploration of carbon sequestration, hydrogen. Those will not work in an area that is in a water crisis. It will not work in the long run to mitigate climate change. So it's very important to, for us to stay involved, for us to continue to help guide this transition that's before us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Wonderful. Nicole, if you have a few more minutes, we can take a few questions. And I would have one to start. Yes?
Just have her unshare the screen.
Yeah, if you unshare the screen, then we have you in big picture. That's great. Wonderful. Nicole, it said on some of the posters, there was a slogan, "End NGS." Is that Navajo Generating Station or?
Yes. Yes, that's Navajo Generating Station. So that generating station was located within Diné lands. Navajo did not own any part of it, but that was the generating station that was associated with the mines here on Black Mesa where I live. And so in order to end the coal mining, we also had to make sure that the coal plant closed down for good.
Thank you. Thank you. So here in the audience, and you'll get a microphone so also Nicole can hear you properly. And I hope it's on. Nat, is the microphone on? This one? Good, 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 great.
Hello,
Nicole,
hello.
You can signal if you can.
I think I hear it.
Yes.
I think I hear it is on.
Yeah.
Nicole, thank you so much for the talk. I really appreciated it. My name is Craig Freeland, and I'm a program officer at the Institute for Sustainable Communities. Your presentation just made me think of some programs that I recently heard about because my organization is a thriving community technical assistance center through the Environmental Protection Agency. And I just wanted to make you aware of two programs that are happening through the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. There's the Energy Improvements in Rural or Remote Areas program, and that has funding opportunities, and their pot of money, I believe, is up to $1 billion. And there's also the Clean Energy Demonstration Program on current and former mine land. So seeing that that surface mining project immediately made me think of that. There's lots of space available for something that can really be transformative if done right. So I just wanted to lift those things up. And we're a national Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center, but there are regional centers for everyone within the United States of America. One of our other national Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Centers is the National Indian Health Board. So I'm sure they would be able to provide a lot of assistance as well too. And we're trying to ensure that the materials that we put out are translated into English and Spanish, but we also want to try to have some indigenous languages there as well too, such as Navajo, since we know that that is a very highly spoken language still amongst very many indigenous peoples. So thank you very much again, and I hope that everyone is able to take advantage of some of these programs here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could send that to me by email, that information, I would appreciate it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, if there are more questions, comments, yes, please.
Thank you. Yes, Nicole, it was so amazing to hear from you, and it directly aligns to a lot of the work that I'm doing at the Electric Power Research Institute. And I am working on a couple projects related to developing renewables in remote sites and specifically on native lands. And a problem we keep coming up with is that we really want to hire native folks, and we want to train native folks to be able to have sustainable, high quality jobs. And I sometimes struggle with gauging the feasibility of having folks that, you know, are able to come up to speed really quickly on, you know, let's say, battery storage and microgrids and stuff like that. And it's not because of the lack of interest, but because of the lack of infrastructure that's been there before related to those types of jobs. So I'm just curious how you've maybe interacted with that and have seen trainings in renewables on with your community, and maybe just some success stories or small success stories or best practices that you've noticed in terms of workforce development with Indigenous communities.
Yes, workforce development is a very important, it's a very important project that I wish more people could engage in. We have partnered with organizations, companies such as Native Renewables to create solar installers. However, because we're such a small organization, we don't always have the capacity to be able to do that. What I'm noticing here, okay, so there's a couple of things that are in play, especially within my tribal nation. One is that we know that we have to go to renewables. It's you know, but we have a government, an Indigenous government, that is very heavily influenced by industry still. So right now we have industry at our door with hydrogen, with carbon sequestration. You know, one of the things that we're fighting hard, and we were successful with NGS, is when coal plants are shutting down, we need to make sure that they shut down. We want to make sure that they don't end up getting transferred to somebody else who wants to continue coal. But we also want to make sure that they don't end up getting transferred to somebody else who wants to do hydrogen, carbon sequestration, or some other type of fossil fuel at these coal plants that are coming down, you know, so that they can reuse the infrastructure that's there. This is one of the biggest fights that we have on our hands. The way that government, and this is not just Indigenous government, this is state government, this is federal government, the way that their mindset continues to be heavily influenced by industry and with little prioritization of what's available. So in our homelands, Water is not available. In fact, we are fighting for water rights in the state of Arizona as we speak. And we have been fighting since 1971. And for, you know, all the stakes are against us in terms of water rights. And so we're trying to reason, I guess, with leadership, and they should know this information. You think this is how they should be making decisions, but that's not the case. It's a company coming saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to bring jobs, revenues. We have to quit making decisions based on jobs and revenues. We have to start making decisions based on, okay, what do we have? How much water is this industry going to take? How much land is this industry going to take? How much pollution is going to be left behind? How much is going to be ours? How much is going to be cleaned up? How much enforcement language is in place to make sure companies actually clean the shit up when they come in and make a mess, right? So we're finding out that on the front end of negotiations and deals, it might be great. But on the back end, when resources come to an end, like coal, and water is depleted, and there's a lot of cleanup to do, who's going to hold the company's feet to the fire when it comes to reclamation and cleanup and moving on? This is the whole dynamics that we're involved in and talking about every day, and trying to release Navajo Nation leadership from the grips of industry, who are constantly at our back door, and see all this vast land and think that it's a free-for-all. And in the Southwest, we have to maintain this delicate balance between precipitation and the vegetation on the land. And it is very, it's easy to make impacts and make lasting impacts. And, you know, right now we're fighting for reclamation of our deep aquifers, which hydrologists are telling us may take 20 years and may take longer to fully recover. So we're engaged in many different things. And at the same time, we have to continue to bring up the next workforce. It's so very important. And, you know, one of the things that we're fighting is the fact that it's not easy for renewable energy companies to come in and access transmission lines, access lands, get on the queue for these projects, because utilities are in there and they're powerful. They know the system. They have lobbyists, you know. So we're fighting many different battles here, and I'm sure that many of you out there will understand that, you know, we're fighting people who want to get the last little bit of coal out for these companies. They're trying to make their last $1 million before they really have to leave. And we're fighting that. We're fighting leadership, representatives and Congress, you know, senators who think that this is still viable when it's not. And I know I didn't directly answer your question, but a very small part of what we do is to train the next workforce, solar installers, and we have been successful in doing that. However, the jobs are not quite there yet, and many of the jobs that are there are controlled by utilities. So it's very hard to do, and so we just continue on and we keep talking about it, and we keep engaging other organizations. We engage solar companies and solar advocacy groups, and we try to maintain that dialogue with them so they know what's going on. So that helps them direct which way policy should change, who they need to lobby a little harder in the state legislature to make accessibility easier for these solar companies.